Hello, I'm Ana Cabrera reporting from New York with breaking news. A top Trump national security official is stepping down over the Iran war. Joe Kent, director of the National Counterterrorism Center, says, quote, I cannot in good conscience support the ongoing war in Iran. Iran posed no imminent threat to our nation, and it is clear that we started this war due to pressure from Israel. That seismic resignation as we are seeing escalation in the Middle East. Israel now claims to have taken out a pair of top Iranian military leaders, while Tehran hits key energy facilities across the Gulf and targets the U.S. embassy in Baghdad, all as the Strait of Hormuz remains static, driving oil prices back up above $100 a barrel. But President Trump still insists other nations will step in to help safeguard the strait.
Numerous countries have told me they're on the way. Some are very enthusiastic about it. I'm almost doing it in some cases, not because we need them, but because I want to find out how they react.
Well, so far, we've seen some of America's closest allies reject Trump's request. Let's bring in MS Now Justice and Intelligence reporter Ken Dilanian, MS Now International reporter Inez de la Cuetara in Jerusalem. Also with us, MS Now contributor and New York Times chief White House correspondent Peter Baker, our national security and intel analyst, former CIA officer Mark Polymeropoulos, and foreign policy journalist Laura Rosen. Ken, let's start with this big resignation. We saw a number of intelligence and military officials break with Trump in his first term. How significant is this now from Joe Kent?
Good morning, Anna. Well, this is hugely significant because Joe Kent represents a wing of the MAGA movement that is incredibly disenchanted with this war in Iran. You're seeing it on social media, but now you're seeing an actual resignation by a senior member of the administration. The National Counterterrorism Center is a very important agency, particularly at a time when the threat level from the Iran war has been heightened. And we've seen, for example, ISIS-inspired attacks and attacks on synagogues in recent days. And Joe Kent has always been a controversial figure. He was a veteran of the Army Special Forces, and he really represented that sort of non-interventionist wing of the MAGA movement. And also to allege it publicly that essentially the U.S. was goaded into this war because of the Israel lobby, that is a huge statement. It's a controversial statement. There are people, there are MAGA supporters who have made that allegation, of course, that said that essentially Israel jammed the Trump administration into doing this because Israel was going to attack. And Donald Trump even made some statements that made people think that that could have been a possibility. He later walked them back. Trump officials have said, look, this is a joint operation with Israel. They are hand in glove. They are together with the same strategic objectives here. But to have Joe Kent walk away and publicly essentially accuse Israel of drawing the United States into a war and to proclaim that there's no imminent threat, and he sees all the intelligence, by the way, that is a huge, huge deal on him.
Yeah, and he writes, and I think this is important context, too, in terms of his decision and how perhaps earth-shattering it may be in this country. As a veteran who deployed to combat 11 times and as a Gold Star husband who lost my beloved wife Shannon in a war manufactured by Israel, I cannot support sending the next generation off to fight and die in a war that serves no benefit to the American people nor justifies the cost of American lives. Again, Ken, this is the director of the National Counterterrorism Center. What are the national security implications of this?
Well, look, we should add, though, that Joe Kent has always been kind of a fringy figure in the administration, and he works for Tulsi Gabbard, who has sort of marginalized herself in terms of foreign policy. Remember, she was totally iced out of the Venezuela operation because she has always been a non-interventionist. She's a former Democrat, and she's made some incredibly controversial statements, as has Joe Kent, not really part of the mainstream foreign policy establishment or even the mainstream Republican or even the mainstream MAGA foreign policy thinking. But in terms of the national security implications, it's a huge deal that essentially the National Counterterrorism Center is rudderless at the moment, again, at a time when there is an elevated terrorist threat. The NCTC was created after 9/11 to fuse domestic and foreign intelligence. It's the only agency where analysts sit at their desks with computers that get both CIA reporting from overseas and FBI case information from home, because there's supposed to be a wall between those things. We don't want the CIA spying on Americans, but we created this agency so that we could sift through things that were lost. Remember, the dots that weren't connected during 9/11. And so the idea that this agency is now rudderless without a permanent leader it could bode not very well for national security at the moment, Anna.
Ken Dilanian, thank you. Mark, let me get your reaction to this.
Well, it's pretty extraordinary. You know, Joe Kent is someone who actually worked at the CIA as well. He was a paramilitary officer, very well respected. This is before his political career. And as he noted in his resignation letter, he lost his wife in the global war on terrorism. So it was a tragic story. He then ran for Congress several times, certainly became part of the MAGA movement, very much, a hard right. And then when he went to NCTC, the National Counterterrorism Center, he did so, I think, because of his, his close relationship with Tulsi Gabbard. And so with this, inflammatory resignation, and of course, Ken's right, the comments on Israel, I mean, I think we should probably expect Joe Kent to be on Tucker Carlson soon. But I do think this also poses the question of what's Tulsi Gabbard's future in this, too, because Joe was very close to her. This clearly he would have done, not necessarily in concert with her, he would have told her, of course. So I wonder if she's on the way out as well, because we have seen tensions within the national security world, for example, between the CIA director, John Ratcliffe, and Tulsi Gabbard. And then, the final point on this, too, is that, as Ken noted, this is the schism in the MAGA movement. And I think this is now going to be more acceptable for many people to come out and say, well, look, the head of NCTC just resigned. This war is a problem. I'm sure President Trump is not happy today. He campaigned for and was very supportive of Joe Kent. So this is quite a blow.
Yeah, and this is interesting timing, Peter, considering Kent's boss, DNI Tulsi Gabbard, will be in front of Congress tomorrow. And Gabbard's been really silent during this war so far.
Yeah, it's actually very striking because, as we've been talking about, she also has been very skeptical of aggression on Iran. She put out a video just last year from her office saying that people wanted to drive the United States into a terrible war against Iran that shouldn't happen. And she hasn't been saying much at all lately. I think that she's been on the outs, or seen as on the outs with the White House for quite a while. They've now sort of repurposed her into an election denial, investigator, rather than, the external threats that have been, traditionally at the core of that job, the Director of National Intelligence. But it does raise questions where she is at this point. It'll be fascinating to see what she says under oath.
And again, this is somebody resigning who was a Trump true believer all along. We've seen other resignations and some firings of people who didn't drink the MAGA Kool-Aid, for lack of a better term. Peter, could this set off more resignations?
Yeah, I think you're right to make that point. This is not a career person objecting to the Trumpian philosophy or the Trumpian way of doing business, as we've seen time and time again over the last year at the FBI, at Justice, at other agencies and so forth. This is a Trump ally. This is one of the MAGA champions. He's a conspiracy theorist, or at least has advanced conspiracy theories involving the 2020 election, involving the January 6th. He's been associated at times with some of the, far-right white supremacist groups. He's distanced himself from them since then. He was the tool of Trump's revenge against a Republican congresswoman who voted for his second impeachment. Joe Kent took her out in a primary, though he lost in the general election. So he's not a career person in the sense that we've seen people step down out of objections to Trump. He's objecting to Trump from the Trumpian point of view, from the point of view of this is what Trump said he would not do when he ran for office. He said he would not get us into new wars. And he definitely is sort of in the Tucker Carlson side of the MAGA spectrum at the moment.
Laura, this is an official statement. The whole world gets to see it. What message does this send to America's allies about the U.S. and Israel's war with Iran?
Well, the Iranians, for one, have been watching the public dismay with the war and gas prices going up, and they see that as an effective lever against the Trump administration to try to pressure it to sue for peace. And we've seen Trump not being very interested to do that. We saw the Iranian foreign minister yesterday deny that he had been in contact with Trump's envoy about a ceasefire proposal, and saying that, the Trump administration is just trying to say we're talking to calm oil markets, to manipulate the oil prices. So they're watching the U.S. public be dismayed.
Let's turn to Inez in Jerusalem, because Iran has been hitting more energy infrastructure in the Gulf, while Israel says they've now taken out 2 top Iranian military officials. Inez, what more have you learned about these intense new attacks by both sides?
Yeah, Anna, some big news there with the IDF announcing it had taken out two important officials within the Iranian regime, including Ari Larijani, who was a top security official. The IDF had announced that it was launching a fresh wave of strikes on Iran, specifically on Tehran. We thought they were focusing on ballistic missile production facilities. Then they said they had been targeting Ari Larijani, and then it was the Israeli defense minister who announced this morning that the strike had been successful. So he becomes the second kind of most important figure within the Iranian regime to be taken out after the late supreme leader, of course, who was taken out on the first day. The other figure they took out was the head of the Basij force. So that is a paramilitary volunteer militia. Both Larijani and the head of the Basij force were instrumental in trying to crack down on protests. And we've heard from the Israelis time and time again that they want to see regime change, that regime change has to come from within. They've said they are creating the conditions for the people of Iran to topple their regime. And certainly with these strikes, it seems like they're doing that because these are two figures that would have been key to cracking down on any potential uprising.